Okay, so we're excited to have Lydia with us. She loves weaving in her family and personal experiences as stories for marketing lessons at Cal Poly Pomona. She's a marketing consultant and executive coach specializing in strategy, digital, brand, and product management, integrated communications, and organizational culture. Her clients include companies in technology, education, nonprofit, fitness, and financial services. Lydia previously led all marketing for a digital advertising agency, ranked as one of the top search engine marketing agencies by Advertising Age. And her career includes Bank of America, IndyMac Bank, where she worked in e-commerce, credit, debit, and retail banking, and multicultural marketing. Before teaching at Cal Poly, Lydia taught at La Jolla Marymount University, and she holds a Six Sigma Green Belt certification, and co-founded the Los Angeles chapter of Search Engine Marketing Professional Organization, or SEMPO. So there was a lot there, Lydia. But I think what's obvious is that you bring to the classroom a ton of professional and real-world experience. And so that's why we are super excited to hear about some of these class projects that you've been able to cross over and bring into your class to help drive student engagement. So Lydia, without further ado, let's turn the time over to you, and let's get this show on the road.
Sounds good. Thanks, Trevor. I really do have a lot of fun in the classroom, and teaching was almost accidental for me, but I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. And so
can you still hear me?
I can hear you. Can you? Are we okay on sound?
Can you turn your video on if that's available for you?
Okay, hold on one moment.
Yeah, sorry, the slide deck is up. If we can get your thumbnail down. Sorry to interrupt you on that. Perfect, there we go.
Are we there?
Yeah, we're there. Great. Okay, and then let's just bring that slide deck back up. Sorry, I should have caught that before I turned it over.
I lost sound though, hold on.
Can you still hear us?
Okay, there we go. I think we're good.
Fantastic.
Okay, can we keep going?
Yep, just turn that into presentation mode and then we'll be ready. Sorry about that. Thanks, Lydia. Okay, I'm out of here.
Okay, all good. So anyway, like I was saying, teaching was almost accidental for me, but I love it. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. And one thing that I really do strive to do is provide students with, at least a taste of some of the skills that are going to make them more marketable, right? Make them more desirable to employers. Most of my students, they're seniors, a few juniors might slip in. They're in their last semester, maybe the second to last, and they're ready to fly. And so on that first day of class, each semester, each term, I share my accountability with them, and I'm very open with them that, I want you to walk out of here with a whole lot, but if not at the very least, just one thing that's going to make you more desirable to an employer or a hiring manager. And this really means a lot of things, from getting in the weeds, because this is digital, right? This is marketing, letting them know, don't be afraid of technical terms, to embracing marketing math, and encouraging them to follow something that sparks the fire in their belly, right? To participate always with curiosity and an open mind. So one of the things that I do in class to continuously try to keep them on their toes and to keep things fun for them and for me is to have these in-class activities or projects. And these activities, they're designed, once, to be honest, sometimes it's just to break up the potential monotony of class. But more so, it's really about critical thinking and pushing students to apply lessons learned immediately and also in a very safe environment, right, in the classroom, which is their practice bubble. And then, as I mentioned earlier, to introduce them to, some of the skills that are truly used in the industry. Each of these 5 projects, these activities, they can run anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes. It'll depend on how many students you have, how far you want to push the students, and, what deliverables you want to get out of them or want them to answer, because, you can easily tweak these. I usually have a class of about 30 students, And when we do these activities or projects, I have them split into small groups of 5 or 6 people each. And then at the end of each activity, each group has to select a spokesperson to share their findings or report on their deliverables. Okay. And then whenever I'm coming up with, what are the activities that we're going to do today or what examples we're going to use, these are some of the key considerations. Pick something fun, and it's okay if it's kind of silly. We're going to talk about doggy raincoats today. Or you can have your students help you pick examples, things that are relatable to them. And this just goes to, that top of the funnel, even for your classroom. You got to get your students' attention. And so, sometimes not having this overly serious example of something that's unrelatable to them where they kind of check out of class, bring them back in with something fun. I also like to build on previous activities, sometimes using that same example and kind of continuing that vein through. And then it helps students to connect the dots. It helps them see, okay, this is how, a company is using paid search and SEO together, for example. And then lastly here, I know this can be scary for some, but I really love it, using live examples. So they're not pre-canned, and you may have done a little bit of homework or research ahead of time just to see what comes up in SERPs or results. But those live examples are really fun because you get the students involved and you get to evaluate or be part of that activity together. So here's the first one, landing page analysis, right? This is to really get them started, help the students develop that critical marketer's eye. So sometimes I'll ask the students what they've shot for recently. Here in Southern California, we've had a record amount of rain. And my poor dog, my German Shepherd, has not been happy with all this rain because she wants to be walked every day. So I told the students I was considering purchasing a dog raincoat. And we Googled dog raincoat and looked at, the different ads that showed up in the SERPs. And one thing you may want to spend 30 seconds for students just clarifying very specifically which are ads, which are paid versus organic results, which are shopping feed ads and all that good stuff. And then, before you click on whatever ad you choose to, ask the students, all right, so here we've done a search. We've done a search for dog raincoat or doggy raincoat, and here are the ads that we see. When we click through on this ad, what should we expect to see on the landing page, right? And it's important to ask this before you click through. And, let them, shout out, raise their hand, whatever answers they have. And then when you actually click through, right, you can now audit that landing page and see where the expected elements there. Are there things that support, conversion behavior? Are there specific design systems or frameworks that you see come into play? So this is a lot of fun. And actually, outside of the in-class activities for an individual assignment, I do take advantage of the Wishpond landing page assignment provided by Stukin, and that's been really great for the students getting hands-on into manipulating variables and how to work a landing page. Secondly, there's so many tools. I heard about SEMrush earlier with the previous speakers. Sometimes we'll use SpyFu, but Google Trends, as you know, is available to everyone. And for this one, in exposing them to some of the data that's out there, the purpose is helping students make important connections and helping them to make inferences based on data, right? It's not actually about the data, but how you use the data, right? And most of the students that I come across in my classes, if they've not worked within digital marketing, they've never tried any of these tools, including Google Trends, right? Help them recognize the ridiculous amount of data that Google captures and then makes available to marketers out there so that they can, create campaigns and make decisions. So within their groups, I'll get them started, right? We built on this dog raincoat an example, give them a term that they can search for, and then allow them to kind of just play with the tool and allow for comparisons and different types of keyword search terms that they can enter. Suggest to them, things that they can do, such as right here, changing the time frame, right? California from a past 12 months period is not going to appear high in searches for dog raincoat, but in the last 90 days where we have gotten more rain than we've gotten in several years, here we are indexing very high, right? And an inference would be, would this have any potential implications for, say, targeting if you worked for a company like Chewy.com or some other pet-related brand? Okay. The third activity here is writing paid search ad copy. Everyone has to write ad copy in the marketing industry at some point. And, for many of our students, they're going to start out as a media specialist or a coordinator, maybe a media planner, and they will definitely be involved in ad copy. It may not always specifically be for paid search. It could be other forms, other channels or venues, but this is a great way, again, to give them that exposure and get them started. And they'll learn that through this exercise, writing ad copy, it's not easy, one, and it's even harder with character limitations, such as what we see in Google Ads or Google AdWords, right? Let them have fun with this. Remind them about what has to make it into an ad, such as, a value prop or an offer, right? And listen actively as they report back to you. Okay, here's the ad we came up with. See if they are actually including, keywords and very specifically a call to action. The fourth activity is content marketing research. We want to make sure that our students really know that with marketing, they got to start with research and not just what the highest paid person in the room wants content to be about. And granted, sometimes that is the way things actually start, but you want the research and the data to help you validate, right, what the recommendations are, what a campaign is going to be built upon. And this is about teaching our students, right, that value of the audience, right? This goes back to marketing 101, knowing what the audience cares about, what they want, and feeding the audience what, content they desire. So for something like this, I usually give the students, just like the other activities, I give them a scenario, and I give them a scenario such as you work for Chewy.com or some other pet-related brand. You've been assigned to launch a blog series or maybe a set of Instagram stories. And how are you going to figure out what that content should be all about? And sure, there's definitely testing opportunities, but you got to start somewhere, right? And so, I'll give them a seed like hashtag dogs of Instagram. Maybe that's somewhere you can start. But in these small groups of 5 or 6, they really come up with some amazing things on what to explore and how they can get more information. Other fun topics that are just easy and relatable, ice cream, cars, and all of these, I've had the students actually tell me that these are some of the favorite parts of class, is all through these in-class activities where, they get to do things that are now, pulling them out of just learning from a textbook, where they're actually having to, apply, okay, here's what we know we should be doing, here's how we do it, and what are we supposed to, make of it or deliver from it. Insta-famous influencers. They're pretty shocked when they get to the part of the textbook where they find out about how much some of our celebs out there and other public figures get paid for a sponsored post or an ad content piece in their social profiles or their social content. This activity is to help students, well, one is to delineate between, sponsored content and true unpaid endorsements, but also to help them realize, that paid media can be very powerful when it's done right within a certain context and certain venue. You can do something like this with celebrities like Kim K or whoever your students favor, or if you fancy somebody. I chose, again, keeping in the vein of our dogs and pets here, was able to find Loki, the wolf dog, and you can see Loki has 2 million followers. And with this activity, what I have the students do is I have them pick, that celebrity or that pet influencer, and I have them comb through a social feed. I have them comb through content to find what's organic, but really find, a piece of sponsored content. So on the right-hand side here, I found this one from Toyota. Well, Loki and a buddy is in the back here of a 4Runner, and you have to look closely right into the hashtags under the main caption to see hashtag sponsored. This is eye-opening for most students. They don't, they have an inkling. They know that there's sponsored content out there, but they don't realize how prevalent it really is, or that, most consumers wouldn't see something like this or look that far deep into, some of the hashtag listings. So we have a lot of fun with this. You can, on the flip side of this, they'll find these kind of cool examples. But on the flip side, they'll also see some, bad examples where we've seen celebs who, where it's clearly very unnatural in terms of the type of sponsored content they're promoting in their Instagram or whatever social handle they have. But again, it allows them now to say, okay, for the students, hey, here's something that I wasn't seeing before, and this is how it's working. And by the way, there are animals, pets, and celebrities, right, getting paid real paper, real dollars here to post one picture, right, with a product, right? This is the new type of, if you will, product placement. And in closing here, for the students with these kind of activities, it really helps level set them. Everybody walks into the class with different levels of knowledge, right? And so we want to help, bring everyone together and move them forward, to always advance that dialogue and in their knowledge of digital marketing and the skills they're getting. And then in terms of providing feedback to the students, right, you heard me say earlier, right, this is their classroom, this is their practice level. And I know that most of the professors out there, they're very good at providing feedback, and also letting the students know that when they're getting feedback, it's just that. It's feedback to make them better, to make them improve, their critical marketer's eye. And I know that the students, when they get that feedback, they're just soaking it up, and they really cherish that. And that requires a lot of active listening, I know on my part, when we're doing these types of activities. And last but not least, have so much fun in your class with whatever, examples you choose, with how you choose to implement the activities. When they see that your passion comes through on a specific topic, on a specific practice. I think my colleague who spoke earlier, he talked about consciously raising that energy level. And you just want that happening in the class, because the students feed off of your energy, your passion, and off of each other. And that's what I have for today.
Thank you, Lydia. So we're going to let some of the Q&A roll in here, and we'll jump right into some that came throughout your presentation.
Okay.
Let's talk about grading. How do you grade these projects? Can you give us some examples, best practices, maybe what mistakes we can avoid, that type of thing?
Sure. So for these in-class activities, all right, I don't take attendance in my classes formally. So I don't announce when I'm going to have one of these more structured in-class activities. And so they get credit for being there in class, showing up, and participating in the in-class activity. And through the course of a semester, I will usually have like 5 of these unannounced in-class activities, and so that gets built into the point system. So again, for these, I don't want them to stress about having, that perfect ad copy or coming up with, what's the right set of research, because we never know exactly what they're going to find in some of these activities. So it's more about, you're here, you're present, you're actively thinking through this, and you've done something you haven't done before.
Thank you for that. So one question came in, and forgive me if I missed this. How many classes do you teach?
I teach 2 sections of digital marketing, and each class has 30 students in it. I had to teach other courses too, a total of about 4 or 5 per semester, but usually a staple of 2 digital marketing sessions.
Okay. What text do you use? A question came in. I think it was when you were talking about maybe influencer marketing. I think that's when, I'm trying to remember when that question came in, but I think that's when it was, when you said your students were shocked about what influencers were making per post type of thing.
Well, it's in Stukin's text. I believe you guys talk about Selena Gomez and $550,000 per post she gets paid on a sponsored ad or sponsored content. But I also use a lot of supplemental material. And that's something that I build into my syllabus too, especially for digital marketing. My required text is Stukin Digital Marketing Essentials. And then for supplemental, I encourage them to subscribe to Think with Google reports or eMarketer, because eMarketer aggregates. So, there's such a wide gamut out there. And coming from the practitioner background, having worked at a digital marketing agency as well, I mean, before I used to spend like my first, hour of every morning reading all the headlines of Moz and some of the other publications out there. But I don't think the students need to necessarily be inundated with that. And so that's why a combination with a textbook, Think with Google, maybe an aggregator like eMarketer, those are all great resources to at least, get them into that, let's appreciate what's actually happening out there.
Yeah. Great. Now, you mentioned a lot of examples that you use in your class. Will we be able to get, I'm assuming that those who are in attendance here right now, that they'd like a list or a little bit more information on how they can maybe see some background, maybe some instructor notes of how you've facilitated those projects throughout your class. Do you have that created somewhere already, or is that something that isn't easily available right now?
I don't have it created right now, but I could certainly put something together. I think my background as a corporate trainer has enabled me to kind of do a lot of, I guess, improv, if you will. And I think professors in general in class do a lot of improv. And being really, getting really comfortable in your skin of when you do something like a landing page analysis, because you're involving the students and you're evaluating together, you don't always know what you're going to see as a result. And that's okay. Sometimes there'll be things that are, basic components that maybe I forget about, and a student points it out to me, and that's great. I tell them, great job, you're paying attention, and you're keeping a close eye. But you know what? If there are some, I guess maybe more specific questions, if you could submit them in on which ones you would like notes on how an activity is facilitated, I could easily put that together.
Okay. So if you can go back through or remember some of the names of those projects that Lydia talked about, if you have any specifics that you would like, maybe a little bit more information as far as facilitation, just chat that in, and that'll be noted, and we can make sure that Lydia gets that. We've had a few comments come in, Lydia, about how this has been one of their favorite sessions as far as taking things that you spoke on and being able to turn those into what teachers can do in the classroom.
Great.
And so we like that. With these projects that you bring into the classroom, have you seen any examples of students taking that and taking it outside the classroom, whether that be a passion project, or maybe you have students who are also working and going to school at the same time? Do you have any experiences like that you can share?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. The majority of the office hours appointment requests that I get are not about assignments in my classes. They're actually about careers in marketing, careers in digital. How do I, get my foot in? In a half an hour session, it's hard to cover some of the things that you'll preach to your students about and hope that, they walk away with. But so, for example, when we talk about analytics, actually, I spend a good 5 minutes drilling into them. You need to get your Google Analytics certification, right? Years ago, this was not open to everybody. You could not just go in and get an individual certification. But employers now, they're looking for people who can take initiative. And whether it's a human, scanning a resume or an employer using a software, for recruiting, it's keyword based, right? So if you have Google Analytics certification, for example, on your resume, that's a big positive flag for the employer who's looking for that ideal candidate. Also, I've had students contact me who have graduated, who have said, oh, there's one of my students right now I can think of, he's working for a digital marketing agency, and he emailed me at the beginning of the year. He graduated in June of last, and he said, I'm still pulling up my notes from class, to use as I'm working with clients, as I'm working on different, SEO projects. And so I think these things become more tangible, if you will. They're more memorable for the students rather than just, we can do, I'll do the, hey, let's do a quick run through, like what are the whatever 8 critical elements student gives you for landing pages. But now when you flip that over to let's do the landing page analysis, right? Are you seeing those critical elements on the landing pages? Now you're pushing them to apply, that material immediately, and in that and it's got to be that safe space for them, that practice bubble. The classroom, make them feel really good about, it's okay if I don't say the right thing, but I've made an attempt to try to understand, to make that evaluation.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you. So we have received some comments that have come in and asking for some specific. A question came in, will we get the slide deck? And yeah, so the slide deck will be distributed out with the videos. And I believe what will happen is you'll get an email shortly after with a link to the video recordings. But that will be one big chunk. And we're going to actually do you a favor and chop that up for you and send you another email that will have each session broken down by just the sessions. And so it'll be a little bit easier to consume instead of this big long, I guess you call it a webinar, a presentation with all the sessions. So if I'm not seeing any other questions, Lydia, so if you're holding on to any, let them come in. If not, we'll transition into our next and final segment. But Lydia, appreciate you and the work that you've put into this presentation, sharing some of the intricacies of your class and the projects, how you involve increased student engagement. So thank you, Lydia. Where can professors go and connect with you? Is there a LinkedIn, Twitter? Is there a place like that for you?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn and Twitter. And thanks so much for having me. It's been a joy, and I just hope that everyone got to take one thing away that they can use in the classroom.
Perfect. Thank you, Lydia.
Thanks.